welcome to Top 10, your weekly look at all the latest technology news. I'm Jane Wakefield, standing in for Rory, who's on holiday, and I'm joined by two guests. The BBC online technology editor, Leo Kellyan, is here. Hi, Leo.
Hey, Jane.
And also with me is Annabelle Timsit, reporter at the Quartz News website, where education is one of her areas of expertise. Welcome back, Annabelle.
Thanks for having me.
Here's a taste of what we've got for you today.
I think the ability that Apple has to diversify from a hardware perspective has been overlooked for quite some time.
What we want to do is discourage people from reacting maliciously and badly to robots, consider them as property, I suppose, that they would do for cars or anything else.
All of that to come shortly. Last week we saw Facebook issued with a record $5 billion fine from the US regulator, the Federal Trade Commission, and another £100 million fine from the Security and Exchange Commission, and it was all to do with Cambridge Analytica and the data scandal. But behind the headlines lay some interesting details about when Facebook became aware that data belonging to up to 87 million of its users was being misused. Members of Parliament in Britain are still pursuing inquiries into the scandal, and this week have sent Facebook a letter asking it to explain inconsistencies in the evidence it gave to them. I asked Damien Collins, the chair of the Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee, what these inconsistencies were.
We asked Facebook about what they knew about Cambridge Analytica when they gave evidence to the committee last year. What we were told consistently was there was very little knowledge of what Cambridge Analytica were doing, and until it was first reported in The Guardian in December 2015, there was no cause for concern. Now, we've seen, as a result of evidence Facebook has given to the American authorities, that there was knowledge within the company earlier, and in fact, legal teams at Facebook had raised concerns about what Cambridge Analytica were doing, and their concern was that Cambridge Analytica were effectively involved in the process of acquiring scraping Facebook data to aid their micro-targeting and their campaign work. Now, it then begs the question, well, if people knew about this before it was reported in the media, who knew about it? When did Mark Zuckerberg know about it? Or if he didn't, who decided not to tell him? And why were Facebook so slow to take action against Cambridge Analytica when there were clearly people within the company who got concerns about what they were doing?
And you asked Mark Zuckerberg directly to come and talk to MPs. Are you still pursuing that?
We still want him to do that, and we've said that, as far as we're concerned, it's a standing request. If he ever visits the UK, we will issue a summons for him to appear, so we'll be able to do that as he's in the jurisdiction of Parliament. But also, I and working with international colleagues, established an international grant committee. We invited Mark Zuckerberg to give evidence of that, and that was representatives from 9 different countries, including Canada, Singapore and France. And we met again in Canada earlier this year. There'll be a third meeting of this grant committee in Dublin in November. And what we've tried to do there is say, well, if Mark Zuckerberg can't visit every country, we'll bring together parliamentarians that have got these common concerns about how Facebook works and how people's data is being used, and we'll seek to question him there. And again, he refuses to come. And the reason we've pursued him is that ultimately, as he said himself, he's the person who decides what happens at Facebook. He's the person who should know what's going on. And we're frustrated that when we get people in, including senior people like Matt Schroeder, the Chief Technology Officer, they come and they simply cannot answer the questions that was put to them. Or we see, months later, new evidence that comes out that demonstrates that the answers we were given weren't the right answers at all.
We've seen regulators impose, in some cases, record fines on Facebook over the Cambridge Analytica scandal. What more can parliaments add to this? What can governments do to rein in the power of companies like Facebook?
Well, we've given the data regulators more power. So the Information Commissioner in the UK has got the power to levy very large fines, up to 4% of global turnover for these companies. So that is a big power. But what we need is a proper online regulator who can hold companies to account for not just the way that people's data is used, but also whether they're meeting a duty of care to protect users from harmful content. And I think just as media and broadcasting is regulated, there's no reason why content couldn't be regulated on the tech platforms as well. One of the reasons we find this process so frustrating and Facebook is such a difficult company to deal with is we are largely blind to what goes on there. We largely have to take their word for it. And it's only through detailed investigations by regulators or investigative journalism or whistleblowers coming forward that we start to get glimpses as to what's going on and things we should be concerned about. And therefore, I don't think we can be in a world where we rely on Mark Zuckerberg to do the right thing.
Damien Collins, MP there. Now, Annabelle Tinsett, on the question of online harms, do you think that these big platforms like Facebook are doing enough to protect users, especially really young ones?
I think the answer to that question is a pretty resounding no. As a lot of the investigations that are happening around the big four tech companies show, these companies aren't doing enough to protect users' data privacy. They're not doing enough to protect users' information online, their tech habits, and that's especially relevant for kids. So, for example, Facebook, which technically is off limits for children under 13, created a platform specifically for kids, Messenger for kids, that was supposed to be safe, and as we've seen in recent investigations, it's not. And so, even when these tech platforms try to do products specifically for kids, it doesn't work out.
So, Leo, we've heard Facebook's head of global affairs, Nick Clegg, say that the scandal has rocked the firm to its foundation, but it's still making money and it doesn't seem to be hemorrhaging users. So do you think it can rest easy?
Well, yeah, I mean, last week we heard about the $5 billion fine. A lot of people thought it had got off very easy, particularly this idea that it's now protected, absolved of any further consumer protection claims prior to June of this year. In other words, if any other privacy claims or deceptive practices come to light, it's not going to be prosecuted. But what we've seen since is that it's now facing further investigations. So the FTC is looking into the takeovers that it's done, whether it acted in an anti-competitive manner. It's interesting to note that of nearly half its acquisitions, I think it's shut down those companies. So, for instance, it bought a TNAT TBH. It only lasted 8 months before it decided to shut the business down. So another app that it got people to put on their phones so it could monitor what other apps they were using and could potentially then go in at an early stage. Plus, you've also got the Department of Justice doing a wider look at anti-competitive behaviour across the tech sector, so we'll no doubt be sucked into that.
Sounds like they've got a lot on their plate, and it's going to be a story we come back to a lot. Now, for the first time since 2012, iPhone sales represent less than half of Apple's overall sales. iPhone sales are down by $741 million on the same period last year, according to the company's third quarter results. But overall, Apple posted a small gain in sales, with services such as its software store and music service making up for a dip in iPhone revenue. I asked tech analyst Carolina Milanese from Creative Strategies in California for her take on those results.
I think the ability that Apple has to diversify from a hardware perspective has been overlooked for quite some time. A lot of times, because of the strength of the iPhone, Apple is seen only as a smartphone company, and they're not. And so at a time where sales for smartphones are slowing down in mature markets and maybe are not as approachable in emerging markets because of price point, what we've seen Apple do is the strength of the other parts of the portfolio, being the Mac, the iPad, wearables, both from an Apple Watch and AirPods, come in and help drive that hardware revenue. And then the other part, which everybody's getting excited about lately, is the services offering and what the opportunities will be there for Apple going forward. I think, shorter term, where the growth is really that diversification on the hardware side, and longer term is the opportunity for services and driving more engagement on their own hardware and helping consumers in certain markets. This is not everywhere, but in most markets, see more value coming from those devices. And so from a price point perspective, seeing maybe a higher return on the investment of the kind of money that they're spending on the phone versus other manufacturers that are still mostly a hardware play with somebody else's offering on top of it.
Carolina Milanese. And again, Leo, it's not just Apple that seems to be having difficulty in shifting these high-end smartphones. Samsung is also warning of problems ahead.
Yeah, we had results from Samsung. Its operating profit down 56% on the previous year. It said that its flagship S10 Galaxy S10 smartphones are ones where it makes the most money, had seen a decline in sales, even though there'd been a rise in sales for its cheaper A series range, but the margins there. The other thing that really hit it actually was a fall in the value of memory chip sales. Ironically, it's been affected by Huawei's troubles. You'd have thought the fact that the Chinese company was having issues might have meant more people flocking to buy Samsung's phones, but things aren't quite that simple. But it says things are going to get better. It's got a new Galaxy Note coming out next week, although that increasingly looks like the Galaxy S
They all
range.
look the same.
So it's got the pen. I'm not totally clear why. We should see lots more sales from that. It's got the Fold coming out, although after all the troubles that it had with that and the high price, I can't see tons of people flocking to buy that either. The other thing, though, that is interesting, I guess, is because of Huawei's problem selling its 5G network gear, though, Samsung's hoping to make more inroads there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You're listening to Tech Temp from the BBC World Service. I'm Jane Wakefield. And coming up in a moment is Silicon Valley's mantra of breaking things to innovate on its way out.